Welcome to MartialArtsNow.com. I'm Pedro Bennett, the founder of MartialArtsNow.com. Today's date is March the 31st, 2015. Today I'm in Dallas, Texas, and we have a special guest today. We have with us Mr. Keith Yates. Welcome, Mr. Yates.
Thanks. Good to be here with you.
I really want to thank you for your contribution to the martial arts and your diligence and working hard and training the hundreds and thousands of individuals you have trained over the years. If you would, please tell us about your experience in the martial arts. Really, who are you?
Well, I started in 1964. I was 13 years old, and I started training with Alan Steen, who is known as the father of Texas blood and guts karate. Mr. Steen defeated Chuck Norris and Joe Louis in a single evening to win the international championships back in '62. So he was a very well-known instructor, and I was his youngest black belt at the time when I earned a black belt in 1968. And I've been teaching continually since then.
Yes, I noticed, I read that you were 17 years old, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Yes. Oh, great, great. You teach a system. Would you please tell a little bit about what you teach?
Our system is called Nam Sequan Taekwondo. A lot of people just use the term American karate, which Mr. Steen did. And as I got not only a black belt under him, but I also got a black belt in Okinawan Kobudo and Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, and so I incorporated a lot of different things into our system. And I just felt that the term American karate was a little too generic and a little too sport-oriented for what I did. I did more of a classical, traditional style. So I was trying to come up with a name. And I work at a graduate school that's got several international students, so I actually went to a Korean student because I don't speak Korean. And Mr. Steen's original organization was called the Southwest Black Belt Association. And so I asked this Korean student, what's the Korean term for School of the Southwest? And it's Nam Sequan. And the Kwans were the original schools of Taekwondo, Mudakwon, Cheongdakwon, Odakwon, and so forth. So we are Nam Sequan, American Taekwondo. So we're an Americanized system, but we have a basis in classical Korean martial arts.
Okay, thank you. Your system of martial arts, why is it special? I mean, what is unique about it?
Well, it's unique in the sense that it's something that I have put together. I wouldn't say it's unique in that it's better than anybody else's system. Funakoshi said that the system doesn't make the man makes the system. So I can't say that our system is superior to anybody else's. But again, what I've done is I've taken my experience in several martial arts and combined them together into a curriculum that I think is the most advantageous for the students that I teach. I've taught, we're sitting here in the YMCA in Richardson, Texas, and I've taught here for over 35 years. We just had a black belt test a month ago and promoted 4 individuals to black belt, and so that makes, well, I can't remember the number, but well over 150 black belts, which seems like a lot in one sense, but I know a lot of schools turn out hundreds of black belts per year, but I still turn out black belts the way Mr. Steen did back in the early days. So for somebody that teaches at the YMCA to have 150 high-quality black belts, I'm proud of those guys, and girls too.
You are to be commended for, taking what your instructor taught you and continue to promote that, and you are to be commended for that. And as I walked in, I noticed that you were teaching classes. Oftentimes, I do not find head instructors or people who have trained for many years in front of the class teaching, and I think that is pretty unique about you as well. I can see that you were fit, that you were healthy, and you ready to go. What has kept you motivated and continue to train and teach martial arts?
Well, it's interesting. I grew up in the days of early American competition, and I can point to some of my instructors and contemporaries at the time, and these are very well-known people, from Alan Steen and Pat Burleson, Skipper Mullins, Fred Wren. I was blessed to have those kinds of guys as instructors, and I didn't realize that I was training with all these world champions, and when I was a kid, they were just my teachers. But it was a highly competitive, very sport-oriented system, and these guys were all world champions. And then as they got too old to compete, they all kind of dropped out and went into other things. And perhaps because I was younger, and I earned my championships in kata, by the way. I won a few fighting tournaments, but most of my real experience and love came out of doing kata and realizing the application of kata. And so perhaps because I was into the art of the martial art as opposed to, winning fighting trophies, it just kept me motivated. And so I still do it today, and I love to teach kata. I love to teach little kids. Tonight I was teaching a little 6-year-old white belt, and you're right, most 10th degree black belts don't bother with the little 6-year-olds. But to me, that's one of the most rewarding parts of the martial arts, to see a little light bulb go on in a little kid's eye and realize that I've taught him something, that I've changed something for him.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned kata because I remember in my early stages of martial arts, when I would hear the word kata, even though I was learning kata, I would more focus on the self-defense. Mm-hmm. But then later on, as I learned, it boils down to the kata, and even some systems or self-defense, they say, no, we don't do kata. But I found that many individuals don't know what a kata is.
Yeah, well, kata is what teaches you self-defense. There's famous statements by Bruce Lee and Bill Wallace. I remember Bill Wallace saying one time, kata doesn't teach you very much. And of course, Bill could say that because he was like the best karate fighter, one of the best karate fighters ever. So maybe he didn't need kata to teach him how to fight. But for the rest of us, normal individuals, we have to learn stances and body dynamics and all the things that kata teaches you how to do. Kata was originally done, hundreds of years ago, before there was sport karate. So kata was not designed to win you trophies in a tournament. It was designed to be effective on the battlefield. So if you go into it with that understanding, you can dissect kata and do it for years and years, and it's wonderful. That, I think, is the essence of karate.
Yeah, as I talked to Grandmaster Matsuno Uejiru, he's often promoting kata, and for him to be the age, he's in very good shape, and I can tell that you're in very good shape, and there's some really good benefits of doing katas. Mm-hmm. Even speaking to one of the Grandmasters this past Friday, and he was talking about Tai Chi, and again, it boils down to doing the kata. You are a traditional martial artist. Would you agree?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And over the past 20 years, there's been a great decline in the interest in the traditional martial artists. I have my thoughts about the reason why this has occurred. However, why do you think there has been a decline in the traditional martial arts?
Well, I think there's a couple of reasons. One is the whole Ultimate Fighting Championship MMA stuff on TV. And not that that's bad in and of itself. Those guys are amazing martial artists, and I even enjoy watching them. But I think the general public gets the idea that that's what martial arts is all about. And so when a kid wants to learn how to do martial arts, he doesn't look for the classical karate school. He wants to do MMA like those guys on TV. The other thing I think is the money aspect of the martial arts. And now I write for several of the martial arts business magazines, Martial Arts Professional, and Martial Arts Success. However, I think that there's so much emphasis now on martial arts as a business, and I don't deny people the right to make a living teaching martial arts. But I think when you have all these extra programs to get extra money for the kids and special uniforms and all this, that money becomes the driving factor as opposed to good classical martial arts. And so I think there's been a decline in people that do traditional martial arts because everybody's either trying to be in the MMA ring or they're trying to pay for the next Mercedes payment.
I'm going to agree with you on that. I see that the trend has changed. That it seems to be more promotional sort of type stuff as it relates to the mining capitalism. Yeah. Pretty much that's what we're looking for, and that's unfortunate. So, as an instructor, how could we promote ethics in the martial arts?
Well, the martial arts are supposed to teach character building. From the 21 precepts of Funakoshi to the tenets of Taekwondo, that's always been kind of a part and parcel of martial arts practice, at least coming over in this country from Asia. But ultimately, I don't think learning how to kick and punch is going to make you a better human being. Certain things like sports can teach you discipline, certainly, and respect for other people and so forth. But if you want to teach morals, I think it goes beyond kicking and punching. I've often said that if knowing how to fight makes you a better human being, then Mike Tyson must be a saint.
I understand. One thing I found also too is that when I was talking about live by example. I mean,
yes.
Present yourself by example.
June Rhee.
Yeah, and I find oftentimes my student may have questions and they look. In fact, I just received a call. Was it about last week? A student had contacted me, and he said he wanted to start training with me because of he's thinking about getting in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a student that I'm working with. Martial art has changed his life, and the student spoke with him, and he told me, he said, Sensei, he said, my father's not in my life. I find that I want to get in trouble. My mom is real sick, and I need something to do to clear my mind. So I want get in trouble. So I think that we can promote morality by living by example.
Right. And I agree with that. I mean, June Rhee was my teacher's teacher, and Mr. Rhee is very big on leading by example and teaching character building and so forth. I guess where I'm coming from as a Christian, that I don't think you can attain spiritual peace by learning any kind of physical activity, even the martial arts. So for me, that it goes beyond just martial arts practice. But certainly my Christian faith is seen throughout everything I do, including my martial arts practice. So my students see how I live, and I attribute that, again, not to my Taekwondo training, but to my faith in Christ.
Right. I agree with you, because that's why I think it's good to have like activities for your students, whereby they can see you outside the dojo, outside the training facility,
right,
so that they could see you practice those things.
Well, my door is always open to my students, and I had lunch today with one of my black belts and so forth. So I try to have relationships outside of class. And because I teach at the YMCA and I'm not dependent on tuition money that Y just pays me as a staff member,
yes,
I don't have to develop relationships with the motivation of keeping them in class if they're paying tuition. I can develop my relationships because I actually care about these people.
Yes, that's great, and that's excellent. You allude to Christianity. I just want to present a question to you. Is that you promote Christianity? How does Christianity enhance your martial arts philosophy?
Well, like I said, it pervades every aspect of my life, so this is just one aspect. I think God has given me a position as a martial arts instructor, whether it's standing in front of a class of students or writing books or magazine articles or being on a podcast like this, to be able to just influence other people. And I'm certainly not one to stand on the street corner and preach and so forth, but my faith comes through in everything that I do. And I think as Christians, we need to do that, whether we're a karate instructor or a baseball coach or an accountant or whatever. So certainly it's a big part of me. But again, I'm not trying to say that the martial arts doesn't teach character building aspects, because I know plenty of people, Jewish martial arts instructors, who are great examples and mentors to people and so forth. So I never want to say that Christianity is the only way you can promote character, but for me, it's the primary way that I do it.
Yes. With that being said, what makes a person a good instructor or grandmaster?
Well, that's a good question. I think certainly there's a certain amount of physical skill, because we are doing a physical activity. I think it's character. You have to be someone that someone wants to emulate. I think it's communication, the ability to communicate. There are several people who are world champion fighters, but then they get up in front of a class and you can't understand what they're saying. They can't communicate well. Conversely, there are people who are very good communicators and coaches who maybe are not quite as physically skilled. A great example would be football coaches. Now we're here in Dallas, with the home of the Dallas Cowboys, and Tom Landry was one of the greatest coaches ever, and he actually played professional football, won Super Bowls. Jimmy Johnson won Super Bowls, but never played in the NFL. So would people say, well, Jimmy can't coach because he was never an NFL player? No, he was a terrific motivator and communicator and knew what he was doing. So to me, a grandmaster is someone who is an excellent teacher, has the requisite physical skills, but it's someone that you would want to emulate both on the mat and off the mat.
Nicely put. Nicely put. You know, martialartsnow.com is very thankful to have to interview you as a scholar. I mean, you are a college professor, and you have written hundreds of articles related to the martial arts, and you've written and co-authored books. How do you keep yourself focused?
Well, that's a good question. I think martial arts has helped me be focused, because certainly I learned at a very young age that if I wanted to accomplish the task, I would have to devote myself fully to that task. But I do an awful lot of stuff, martial arts related and non-martial arts related. And I think martial arts has given me the ability to focus singularly on a specific task. You know, a lot of people, if they have 20 things going on, like I have 20 things going on, they can't concentrate on one thing. They're flitting from one thing to the next. And I've learned over the years that if I have to write this article, I'm going to do it for this 2 hours, and then I have to prepare for class tomorrow morning. I'll do that later. I won't worry about it while I'm writing the article. So I think martial arts has helped me become much more focused and disciplined.
Well, fantastic. You know, because I find a lot of times that even with me, sometimes, you know, I'm working on a lecture. Actually, it's an ebook. I use this thing called creative avoidance, in which I find a logical reason not to complete my task. So you're right. I have to, you know, we should stay focused and do what we need to do, get it done.
Yeah. In fact, tonight I'm going to go home and work on my ebook too. I took a book called Martial Arts and Christianity, which is based on my thesis, my master's thesis, and it's already a printed book that's now available for sale, but everybody's going to tell me it needs to be turned into an ebook. So I'm converting it to an ebook now.
Right. That's good. You know, you mentioned something about being a good instructor as it relates to, you know, one's physical ability, etc. What is a good training regimen, or how often would you suggest that one should train in his or her own system?
How often should you train within your own system?
Yes.
Well, yeah, it depends on what your goals are. If your goals are physical fitness, obviously you need to train several times a week, whether it's lifting weights or doing cardio or whatever. If you want to perfect your martial skills, then you also need to train several times a week. I mean, I teach three nights a week, or Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 3 times a week, and then during my off nights, I'll run up to the gym on the corner and lift weights and ride the bike and so forth, trying to stay in reasonable shape for a guy my age. But you can't let cardio training get in the way of your martial arts training. So you've got to continue to train. And now you can do some of that in class while you're teaching, but you have to train outside of class too. And you have to find other martial artists, other black belts who you can train with and share ideas with. And that's one of the things we've done in our organization over the years, is we've got people from various disciplines that can share techniques. And that's part of what keeps me motivated too. I mean, if I just did the same old thing, after decades, you start to get a little bored, but then you pick up a tonfa or you do some Tai Chi and you go, wow, this is all exciting all over again. So to me, that's what keeps me motivated.
Fantastic. You know, this is more, we sort of hinted around the questions I have asked, and the question is, I'm going to make it 2 questions in one. Describe balance in your life, and what projects are you working on?
Well, okay. First off, balance, and I think, yeah, life has to be a balance. And if you know, and I have a regular job where I earn a salary there, and I don't have to depend on my martial arts for my living, which I think has helped keep me balanced in the martial arts. And I've got 4 kids and their spouses and 9 grandkids who 8 of them live in the area, so they're always over at the house and so forth. So I've got to maintain a family balance too. I've got to maintain a balance with my wife and make sure that all of the other activities I'm involved in don't interfere with that relationship. In fact, she's getting ready to retire. She's a school teacher this year, and we're going to go on an Alaskan cruise, to celebrate her retirement. So you've got to maintain all of these things in your life and maintain the balance, and that's hard to do sometimes, and you've got to consciously do it because it'll slip if you don't. Now, what was the second part of the question?
It's the project that you want.
Oh, the project. Well, one of the things is the ebook that I'm working on, taking one of my existing books. I'm also the managing editor of Official Karate Magazine, the revived publication of the 60s and 70s.
Excellent.
So I'm working on that. I'm working on an article for Martial Arts Success too, for John Corcoran, who was my first editor, incidentally, who got me into magazine writing and so forth decades ago. I'd say those are the martial arts things. We just finished our big annual seminars and banquet for our organization. And in a few months, we'll be celebrating the 50-year anniversary of Alan Steen's original karate organization, the American Karate Black Belt Association. So we're going to invite well-known people from all over the country to come into Dallas for that. So I've always got something in the fireplace burning.
Oh, that's good. It's good to hear that. I can see by the excitement that you are very energetic and that you're enjoying what you do. And I would like to say, just keep it up. We're coming to the close of our podcast. Is there any last words you'd like to share?
Well, I would just encourage people, whether you're an advanced martial artist or just a beginner getting started, the martial arts can be a lifetime activity. So don't just do it for a little while. But decide that this is something that you've really benefited from and you want to pass it on. For me, that's, again, the excitement, is being able to take the lessons that I've learned from so many great instructors over the years and, in turn around and pass it on. So I think if you keep that in mind, this can be an activity you'll do until you can't lift your legs anymore and do another kick.
I really want to thank you for allowing martialartsnow.com to interview you, and I want to say thank you again for your contribution to the martial arts.
Yes, sir.
And you've just heard it here on martialartsnow.com. I'm Pedro Bennett, the founder of martialartsnow.com, and you just heard it from Mr. Keith Yates, Dallas, Texas. And thank you for listening.